Focus. Ideate. Innovate. Enable. Tata Communications and CNBC TV18 present Building India's Financial Cloud Community.
The COVID-19 crisis came in with a call for change in business operations across the globe. Companies had to transform to continue being relevant in a transposed ecosystem and to not just survive, but also add a significant value to their businesses. Scalability, security, greater flexibility, and resilience are some of the must-haves for C-suite executives and board members of financial institutions today. Hello and welcome to CNBC TV18 and Tata Communications present Building India's Financial Cloud Community, a series where we're going to find out how the banking, financial services, and insurance or BFSI community can unlock cloud capabilities to build a resilient ecosystem. And to discuss the importance of cloud-based transformation in the banking sector and how future generations can fast-track cloud capabilities, today we're joined by Deepak Sharma, CDO at Kotak Mahindra Bank, Vaibhav Joshi, CDO, Equitas Small Finance Bank, Pankaj Purohit, EVP and Head IT at Motilal Oswal Financial Services, and Arijit Banerjee, Senior VP and Head India Region for Tata Communications. Gentlemen, welcome to the show and thank you so much for joining in. Arijit, let me start with you. Your cloud has become the execution ground of new technologies like AI, ML, big data, and analytics. These are big words, but really, what is the role of cloud technology in digitally transforming this BFSI space?
Thank you, and a very good evening to everyone who have joined us today. Let me answer this question with a perspective to where the financial services industry stands. Now, after 2 years of a global pandemic, the industry appears to be acclimating to a new reality. Many temporary measures that were put in place are now poised to become permanent, and a new industry structure seems to be slowly emerging. The pandemic really accelerated digital banking initiatives. Cash usage fell, savings expanded, remote became a way of working, and obviously sustainability now is on top of mind for customers as well as the regulators. While the industry may have really averted a major crisis, if I may put it that way, it is still underperforming its pre-financial crisis levels, and the return of equity for the industry as a whole across is under pressure. It is constantly getting challenged by a host of new competitors in several dimensions, including financial performance and customer experience, while new business, operating, and collaboration models continue to emerge. So to compete in this new regime, here there are key imperatives the industry really needs to focus upon. And let me touch upon 3 of them and the critical role cloud will really play there. First is end-to-end extreme digitization. Now, most of the institutions have done a lot of work in the front end, but the mid-office and the back office continue to be dominated by legacy environments. Today, in most of the organizations, an array of tightly coupled applications run on heterogeneous technologies, which really limits the ability of the organization to really undertake end-to-end digitization, thus failing to really unlock the complete value. We all know by now that to address this, they will really need to exploit technologies like automation, AI, big data, and really apply them at scale, thus enabling collaboration across internal business units and an ecosystem of external partners through a more secure platform interactions. Hence, the compute infrastructure should really support interoperability, speed, flexibility, innovation, cost efficiency, and resiliency, like you said, while the application architecture should really support secure portability of microservices and containerized solutions that can really help meet fluctuating customer demands. So we can clearly see that the adoption of cloud-native architecture will be really key here. Second is creation of customer-centric platform business models to really orchestrate, integrate, and serve the many different needs of the same customer in a more frictionless environment. For example, banks today are seeing their margins and revenue pools really shift from their traditional balance sheet business models to a more fee-based distribution model. So leading financial institutions are really creating their own ecosystems to serve attractive market segments. And we see a lot of that happening in India already, where they're really going beyond their traditional services, while in parallel, deeply integrating their products and services with other well-established platforms. Again, in order to do this successfully and give customers a true omnichannel experience, the application architecture of the customers need to really be modernized. Core application functionality should then be able to auto-scale on demand. Robust API-based platforms need to be used, and big data AI need to really drive hyper-personalized interactions. And as we can see, all of this will be driven or needs to be driven by a secure hybrid cloud architecture. Last but not the least, I think adoption of new workforce and new workplaces. It's a given that we have to embrace the reality of a new workforce in new workplaces. That really redefines how, where, and when work is performed. The financial institutions workforce today incorporates employees, subcontractors, could be vendors, partners, and here again, cloud can really enable effective collaboration across this expanded workforce, merging the physical and the digital work environments. Data is increasingly moving from the data center to the edge, and availability of application and data anywhere and at all times with the right kind of security then becomes absolutely critical. And this again will be enabled by the right secured hybrid cloud architecture. Even on the network side, legacy network architectures can no longer really support this requirement. So adoption of software-defined cloud-based network design becomes an imperative. And lastly, on the customer engagement side, we are again seeing more and more organizations taking their contact centers to cloud. That really helps them bring in far better scalability, elasticity, and a reduced time to launch new customer journeys.
Okay, lots of interesting points there, Arijit. I mean, whether it is building resilience, cost efficiency, customer experience, and like you said, adoption of new workplaces and workforces, there's multiple benefits of adoption of cloud. But Deepak, let me toss that to you then. As a banker, what do you think, what is the role played by cloud in transforming this sector that you've seen firsthand?
Yeah, I think as a firm, last 3 to 4 years, we have seen a much rapid adoption of cloud than what we saw earlier. Initially, obviously, banks were a bit wary of moving largely on cloud because of the cost, the security, the application readiness. But we have started to see as we modernize our application or look at new application, I think both infrastructure as a service and SaaS-based cloud model has started to become mainstream. For example, at Kotak, we have a vision to be 70 to 80% on cloud in next 3 to 4 years. Today, that number would be around 20 to 30%. So that itself can tell you directionally how banks are getting more and more ready. Simply because apart from points that Arijit mentioned, I think agility, flexibility, speed to market, ability to scale up and scale down, because we are today increasingly seeing a highly transactional banking experience that is becoming core. Either it's a UPI or bill pay or cash management solutions. So anything in financial service today, we need to have flexibility and ability to scale up and scale down at will. Also, a lot of new business models requires flexibility as we go and navigate through an unpredictable growth curve as we look at it. And I think that another one factor that has started to drive us is the ecosystem around cloud has started to become mainstream. Today, when we look at any new application, they are mostly cloud first. So it's not about just a choice of banks saying, hey, I want to go to the cloud. I think the ecosystem has started to come around and say, if you are moving on cloud, we have an entire product suite, either it's a containerization or security packs, or looking at probably your data and analytics suite. And then all of a sudden you realize that, hey, listen, you can do a lot more and a lot faster with flexibility as you move to the cloud. So I think today it's no more a strategic choice. It's more about directionally at what pace are you be looking at moving there, and how do we ensure some of our legacy applications we can move, while newer applications are a lot easier to bring on cloud.
More, it's just about the pace with which you adopt or move towards cloud. Pankaj, let me bring you in on that note. Deepak said from 20 to 30% cloud adoption, Kotak Mahindra Bank may look to move to 70 to 80%. What's your own sense at Motilal Oswal?
Are in line what Deepak has said. So everybody has a roadmap to move to the cloud. So in our industry, we are a little different from bank. Definitely, we are not bank. In our broking industry and financial services, majorly there are two types of technology we use. One is for front office to do the transactions and all those things, and second is we generally called as a back office, which does the processing of the client statements and all those things, right? So the need has started post-pandemic, and we are very focused to move our back office processes at the end of day processing or real-time processing into that. And that is only possible with a speed, with the ecosystem and the infrastructure power of the cloud, right? And I think we already had started the journey in the COVID itself. We had also reached 30-40% from a back office processing, data storage point of view, right? And the roadmap is very clear. Next 2 years, we have to shift minimum 60 to 70% to the cloud. That is our journey.
Okay, on that note, Weber, let me bring you in again. So, adopting a cloud mindset has been called, by many people, the single most important predictor of success, of cloud success. What do you think are the key factors to develop a cloud mindset for companies now who are looking to transform?
Sure. So generally what happens is when we talk about banking as a sector is very heavily regulated. And that is what, Deepak was also trying to say when he spoke. So when we are looking at a highly regulated sector and then we are looking of, technologies such as cloud, which are coming in. So we need to understand what is the regulator's stand on this particular technology. Okay, so while the regulator has allowed certain aspects through which banks are now looking at getting into a private cloud kind of a model, definitely not on a public cloud kind of a model, there are certain applications that banks have started experimenting with, and depending on the performance and depending on the success of those applications, the adoption of cloud for certain core applications would be the next step. And while I'll talk about the developing of a cloud mindset, you need to first look at the banking systems as a whole. Now, if you look at banking technology, you have the core systems. Okay, on top of core systems, you have a middleware system, and then you have enterprise service bus, and then you have other systems, and then nowadays you have all those API stacks. Typically, what happens is these programs talk with the banking systems through a certain layer, and then it ends up in the middleware and then with the core. Now, if you're talking about a legacy system, then the load on that system is very heavy. And that is where we need the adoption of cloud to come in. That is where we want the cloud mindset to be brought in. But if you look at banks, the processes within the banks are such that you have everything has to go through compliance, everything has to go through operational risk, and everything has to go through a product committee approval kind of a process. So when there is certain kind of regulatory nuances that are involved, when the regulator ends up giving some kind of a leeway, then we adapt to those things. Now, one of the most simplest of the use case that I would say that people have brought in, banks have adopted on cloud is video KYC. If you look at video KYC, earlier you used to go to a branch and you would carry out a paper-based KYC. And now if you look, there is a very nice cloud-based video KYC system. There are few vendors in the market, and then, we are going ahead and using those systems. And the scale is not an issue because of this. Now, is the same thing had to be done in the traditional archaic process and those legacy systems, it would have been next to impossible. Now, when we talk about, developing a mindset, and maybe, we need to bring in compliance, we need to bring in operational risk, we need to bring in factors such as, fraud risk management. We as bankers need to let go of certain things that we are used to controlling directly, because we have to start thinking about scale. We have to start thinking about information security. We have to start thinking about, data and security privacy, but from a cyber security perspective, from a data leakage perspective, where there is higher security at the cloud. Okay, we have to talk about, legacy applications, IT infra, moving into a different environment altogether. And then, we have to address the key aspect of, having good manpower, not having shortage of cloud skills, and so on.
Okay, gentlemen, hold your thoughts there. We have to take a very short break, but we're going to be right back.
Tata Communications and CNBC TV18 present Building India's Financial Cloud Community.
Welcome back. You're watching CNBC TV18 and Tata Communications present Building India's Financial Cloud Community. Let's continue our conversation, gentlemen. What make up some of the key elements for a successful enterprise cloud strategy to your mind?
With businesses today integrating themselves onto cloud solutions, and in some cases, new business models actually arising due to the benefits which cloud adoption brings today, it is really proving to be effective for organizations to have a unified cloud model. I think that is very important to meet all their business needs. The recent evolutions that have happened in the field of cloud computing really validate the need for a more sophisticated hybrid multi-cloud adoption that really drives efficiencies for making cloud adoption really be seen as a prudent investment and not a cost. It's really not about one size fits all. The most suited cloud platforms compatible with different types of workloads should really be identified so that the cloud estate an organization has is completely coherent and synchronous with enterprise business needs. The key question typically is not about availability of cloud either in public or private. It is about availability of cloud native functionalities. Lastly, I think it is very important to have an effective orchestration tool. Organizations really need to have a very effective tool which then integrates these different IT environments, be it the network, be it the security solutions, into a single dashboard and creates a single pane of glass view, which then enables continuous and autonomous governance for all the IT resources.
Vaibhav and Deepak, both of you, Vaibhav, I'll start with you. Can you explain one banking service use case that you've implemented on cloud besides, of course, eKYC that you already spoke of?
Sure. So broadly, when you talk about this, digital accounts, these are the accounts that you end up opening under 2 minutes. And when you are trying to, open these kind of accounts under 2 minutes, so, there is a lot of backend scalable infrastructure that is required. There are, hundreds of APIs that come into play. Those APIs are called in, data gets fetched, certain data about the user gets called in. And this is happening because, there is a scalable private cloud sitting at the back, applications sitting on those private cloud who are actually doing that particular thing. What is also important is from a scalability perspective, okay, private cloud is something that we intend to use for certain type of API stacks. Okay, there too we do not want to use it on a product model. We try to implement it on a platform model. And to give you an example, when we talk about certain kind of UPI programs that we are running, payment programs, we talk about certain kind of prepaid programs or digital wallet programs that we run. So there a lot of this hosting or processing actually gets carried out through this scalable clouds, so that processing of transactions is never an issue, because sometimes we see that during peak hours a lot of transactions just pass through, and while the pipe is scalable, at the end of the day your application also needs to have that kind of a processing power. Okay, so those are places where we are using it. If you look at, eventually I feel that banks will also start deploying it on the, more serious business, which is on the lending side of things. But today, I think, that would only happen once we see some kind of relaxations by the regulator, some kind of, holistic adoption at the larger banks level. And then eventually a lot of these banks would look at also implementing it for those kind of products.
I don't know how much the regulator is going to relax provisions any further, but Deepak, what's your sense, and especially some of your learnings from 811, if you could share?
Today, we have more than 50% of our customers of 32 million that come through digital route. So it's something which is at scale, and we have grown our customer base almost 3x in last 4.5 years at the back of 811. But I think more importantly, what we have seen is, as we have grown our customer base from 8 million to 32 million, I would say, over last 4 years, it has phenomenally put the pressure on the transaction volumes. Majority, almost 70 to 80% of our newer applications are cloud first.
Let me toss that to you now. Not just as a banking enterprise, but Motilal Oswal, all the other financial services that you have in your fold. How do you see fintechs as competition or as allies? This common phrase going around these days is that perhaps the financial capital of India is shifting from Mumbai to Bangalore. Where do you stand on that?
So I think it's an ecosystem which is growing on. Right? Fintech we don't see as a competitor, but we can see as an ecosystem and partners to us. Many fintechs are working with us and with the other capital market organizations, and that also somewhere driving us to move our maybe API-driven systems or maybe our transactional system towards the cloud journey. I don't agree that capital hub is shifting from Mumbai to Bangalore, but I would say it is spreading Mumbai, which is like now that every city will be a capital hub going ahead with the ecosystem of fintechs and all those things.
All right, Arijit, I'll give you the final word. What are these community clouds? How are they becoming a game changer for the industry in transforming their operations and services?
I think the principle of a community cloud model is built and operated specifically for a targeted group. The goal is to really leverage a shared infrastructure that gives cost benefits, reduces complexity of management, and nowadays also the added benefit is it is also seen as a major contributor to sustainability due to reduced carbon footprint a shared cloud environment will help drive. We at Tata Communications launched our own ISO Financial Cloud last year in July for the financial services community, which is a completely secure, regulatory compliant, and performant banking community cloud platform that really aims to enhance performance and security of organizations in the banking and financial services space. It is a multi-tenant private banking cloud environment, fully managed round the clock with a high degree of automation built in. The security components encompass the network, the hosting infrastructure, applications, and data. It also provides add-on choice on security for cloud posture management, network security with DDoS and WAF, etc. The infrastructure meets all the banking regulations either set by RBI or the insurance regulations set by RDI with respect to data residency, data privacy, data sovereignty, and audit needs. For example, it is PCI DSS certified, CERT-In certified, SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 compliant, various PII compliances are also kind of built in. The connectivity options, which I said earlier is so critical, include high-speed networks, ensuring very fast and efficient banking operations. It is a highly scalable and a three-way DR ready setup with predefined SLAs to ensure uninterrupted operations. It also offers a full-fledged infrastructure as a service and PaaS environments that really help in new technology adoption, either through DevOps employing managed Kubernetes or container as a service for app modernization, new application development, and testing through microservices or CI/CD practices. We have also started to onboard ISVs, which is so very important, onto this platform where they will be able to offer their applications in a SaaS model. The ISO Financial Cloud also has an unified command portal that comes with an integrated dashboard for network, cloud, and security services that can be customized.
All right, Arijit, on that note, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, all of you gentlemen, Pankaj, Deepak, Vaibhav, all of you, and Arijit, of course. Thank you for taking time out and sharing your thoughts with us. It was quite an insightful session, and I hope everyone had some takeaways. On that note, we'll wrap this up. Thank you again for joining us, and goodbye.
Tata Communications and CNBC TV18 present Building India's Financial Cloud Community.
Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.